Good afternoon, FlossTube. It's Sunday the 3rd of February 2019. I am Caroline and I'd like to welcome you to my latest video. I believe it's number 4. I'd like to say welcome back to everyone who's watched some of my other videos, and if you're a new viewer, thank you very much for coming to check me out. If you would like to subscribe, I would be very grateful. And to everyone who has subscribed, thank you very much, and also to everyone who leaves likes and comments, again, I'm very grateful for them all. You can find me around the internet on Instagram and Twitter as @Caroline A Kemp, and Caroline is spelt with a K. I'll put it down below. Right, shall we get stuck in? Since my last video, I told you I was going to start, I was going to have a new start for the 1st of January. That new start was by Mary Cox. It was called a little needle book called Needles for Williamsburg, and I started and finished it on New Year's Day. So I'm hoping I can get this finished up into the needlebook this month. So I'm hopefully, having said that, it'll keep me accountable, and you should see the finished needlebook next time. The kit came with this gorgeous little box, hand-painted box with pineapples on, so I am looking forward to getting that done. It was a present from a lovely friend of mine who had it in her stash and decided she was never going to stitch it, so she passed it on to me, so I felt I had to get it done. So that is my only stitching finish for the month, but I'm very pleased to get it done. I do, however, have some fully finished objects. In my last video I showed you some Christmas ornaments that I stitched last year. I was then about to start the finishing. That all got done. They got on the tree. One of them squeaking in just before we took the tree down on January the 6th, but they got on the tree and they're all done. So we have Walt the Malt from Raise the Roof Designs, Checking the List by Dragon Dreams, Spool Tree from Sue Hillis Designs, and I Believe by Amy Brucken Designs. And these were all stitched for the children, as I try and do them a Christmas ornament every year. So far I managed it. So as it was the 1st of February on Friday, I had my first of the month new start. This month I decided I was going to start a design by Hand in Heart. It's one of their Wee Ones range and is called Spring Bird. I stitched Winter Bird many years ago, and that's somewhere in the finishing pile, so I need to dig that out and do something with it. I was gifted the chart with the button. I made pretty good progress as it was Friday night, and I've got a huge chunk of the bird done, so when this comes up in the small slot in my rotation, I'm not expecting that it will take me too long to get it finished. I'm using the recommended linen, which is 32 count summer khaki, with the recommended colours, which are a mix of Weeks and Gentle Art Sampler threads. very much enjoyed stitching that one, and I'm hoping to do the other 2 birds in the series as new starts as we go through the year. And then on to my whips. I've been making reasonably, I've been not doing too badly on this, my goal of actually carving out a bit more time for stuff through January. We shall wait and see how the rest of the year goes as I'm starting to, as everything sort of gets busy and so on. So my Santa Sunday piece is Pomegranate Santa by Plum Street Samplers, and I'm getting close to the halfway point on this one. I spent a very frustrating couple of Sundays just starting and restarting this pomegranate up the top. There's been quite a bit of frogging. The first time I had a total brain fart and decided to use two strands of thread when it's being stitched one over 2. So all that had to come out, and then I made a counting error the second time I had another go at it, but I think it's all there now, so hopefully when I pick it up again tonight I will get to make a bit more progress on that. And I have stitched another couple of deer in and the more snow, so I'm almost up to the halfway point on this one, being stitched in the recommended Crescent colours with Classic Colourworks on some Vintage Light Exemplar, 36 count from my stash. When I discussed my stitching plans with you last time, I hadn't at that point seen Michelle Farm Girl Stitches video where she talks about her Stitch 9 challenge, and I had to think about it and thought, actually, do you know what, that might be just what I need to incentivise me to get a few things stitched. However, when I drew up my Stitch 9 list, I totally forgot about Pomegranate Sampler, so it's not on the list. So I might have to make it Stitch 10. We'll see. But what's on the list is quite a few things you saw last time and a lot of my current whips. So I shall run through what I put on. So I have worked on Take a Lovely Sampler this month. That's the first of my Stitch 9. I got a fair bit done on the middle of the reticule. I've done the lyre and that's in the middle, and a good chunk of the green swag that runs up this side. I'll probably start on the green swag on that side, and then I can start on the fun bit, which will be doing some of the flowers up the top. Again, quite happy with how much progress I've made on that one, because I really would like to get it finished. This was a class I took back in 2006, so long overdue getting finished, and maybe even finished. We shall see, but I wouldn't hold your breath on that one. The second project on my Stitch 9 is the Roses Red Pincushion, also by Forget Me Nots in Stitches. Lauren designed this piece as a commemoration of the Queen's Diamond Jubilee in 2012. So what I'm working on at the moment is the bottom of the pincushion, and it does have the date, so I've kept it as 2012 to commemorate the Jubilee. And this time round I got the dates in, and I've made a start on the lettering. So hopefully that won't take too many more sessions to get done, but I think I say that every time. When I recorded last time, I was working on Home of a Needleworker 2, and and with it being on holiday from work, I actually made really good progress and got my house built. So next up is all the greenery underneath the house, and up this side there's another flower. Again, this is being stitched in the recommended Crescent Colours Classic Colourworks. We're on a piece of 28 count Jobelan that I had in my stash. And that's the finished design. One of the more challenging ones that I'm hoping I'll finish this year is Dorothy Walpole. I really would like to get her done, not least because I have a large pile of other samplers, and I just won't let myself start another big sampler until I have finished Dorothy. When she came up in my rotation this month, I actually managed to get a start on the flowers. Yay! I've pretty much finished the strawberry band along here. As you can see, I made a start on one of the big flowers, so hopefully when she comes up again I can get a bit further on, and now these, with the big flowers, she should start growing at quite a rate, so we'll see how we go. This one is being stitched on some vintage pearl barley, 40 count by Lakeside Linen, and I'm using the recommended DMC from the design. So next we're going to go on to the remainder of my stitch 9 that aren't current whips, but which I did show most of them you've seen before. I'm hoping I will get the fob and the floss fob and scissor fob from Jackie Duplass finished. I'm wanting to finish Tiny Tweel Hearts by Just Nan. I'm also hoping that I can get back to my Scottish sampler. This is from the needle print book, the Good Heart Samplers. This is charted in the dust jacket, and I was lucky enough to go to the seminar that launched the book, and this was a kit I was given at the seminar. I'm about halfway through, so this will go into my rotation when I finish Take a Lovely Sampler, because again this dates back to 2008, and I do want to try and get some of my earlier class pieces done. I don't have a cover chart, so this is the original sampler in the Good Heart book. So yeah, I'm just starting all this black work, so I think it should be doable in a year, assuming I can get some stitching time in. The other piece I want to do this year is, when I finish Home of a Needleworker 2, is start this market exclusive kit from 2013 from Brenda Gervais. I bought it at the time and it's been sat on my shelves waiting, so this will be my next start in my medium-sized project slot of my rotation. It's a complete kit, so I've got all the Weeks Dye Works threads and the linen, and Brenda recommends coffee dyeing the linen, so I should probably do that first, and I think what I'm going to do is make that my 1st of March start, to get going on it. Really looking forward to stitching that one. That, however, only takes me to 8 projects, but Michelle sort of intimated that we could add other crafts in. So what I've decided to add in as my 9th project, because like I said, I'd forgotten about Pomegranate Sampler, Santa rather, is Christopher's quilt. So I've made a start on the quilting on this one. So this is going to be one of my projects to get finished. Decided to quilt it at roughly an inch and a bit straight across, lines across. So with varying degrees of straightness, because I'm not the most experienced quilter yet, but at this stage it's more important it gets on his bed. So I have actually carved out a bit of time for quilting. We'll see how we go, because the sewing machine generally only comes out at weekends, and weekends are going to start getting busy again. We've been quite quiet, which has been nice. So that's my Stitch 9. Maybe achievable, maybe not. We'll see how the year goes. I like a challenge, so we shall do that. Last year I tried to do Year of Whips on the Soulful Stitching board, but I got to work on some of them, but again I don't get enough time, so I've decided, well, it's going to be Year of Whips because it's always a Year of Whips for me. I'm not going to go in because I don't quite meet Melanie's criteria, so I'm going to do it my way this year. Right, on to knitting. I have a knitting finish, which I predicted last time because I was so close to it. This is the Wishmaker, no, well, not Wishmaker, Fairy Hill Shawl by Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade. There you go. All finished, all blocked. Just looking forward to some slightly warmer weather because it's been a bit brassic round here the last week or so. We haven't had a lot of snow. It's very rare we get lots of snow here in Leeds, but it's been incredibly cold, frosty and icy, which has made driving into work entertaining some mornings. So, as I said, it's the Fairy Hill Shawl, which is the first shawl in Helen's Shawl Society 2 collection. The shawl comes in 3 sizes. I knit the small one, as in Amethyst sock yarn from Blue Moon Indigo, the Border Tart, and it is 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon and 5% stellina, which gives the shawl a beautiful sparkle. I don't know if you can see it there, in there, maybe just a little bit. Very pleased with how that's come out, and looking forward to wearing it when the weather gets a bit warmer. So of course, having finished a shawl, I could start a new one. As I said last time, my new start was going to be the Polka Gris Kerchief by Kate Davis Designs. This is to use some yarn that I bought on my first visit to New Zealand back 5 years ago, so 2014. It's Zilania Air, which is a mix of 40% cashmere, 40% brushtail possum down and 20% mulberry silk, and is beautifully soft and has a lovely sheen to it. So here is my kerchief so far. I'm absolutely loving knitting this because it's just, once you've got the pattern repeat, it's a 4-row pattern repeat, and once you've got that down you can just knit. So it's growing nicely for just a month's knitting, and and like I say, it's so soft. Otherwise, I am still working on my Scolle cardigan. I am over halfway on Sleeve Island. The Progress and Mark Keeper is where I was last time, and I have finished one sleeve and started the second. I'm about a quarter of the way up. This is being knit in Blacker Lioness, which is a mix of linen and Falklands Island merino, and is in the dark colourway Hematite. And of course I'm knitting my socks when I need a travel project. These are My Dreams in Fibre Hermione's Everyday Socks, and I'm knitting them in a yarn from the Knitting Goddess, which is Carbodarum, who was a troll. It's from the Back to the Discworld sock yarn club that Joy the Knitting Goddess ran in 2016, which I was a member of. But as my children like to point out to me, it's Slytherin colours. So there's a bit of mixing up of my fandoms there, but yeah, I can't remember where I was last time, but I'm almost at the heel now on the first one. I'm probably going to have to put my projects down for a few weeks this month because one of my colleagues at work is going on maternity leave in April, and of course I have to knit her something. So I'm currently scouring the baby patterns to find something suitably cute. She doesn't knit herself, but she's quite crafty, so she's eminently knit worthy. So I will be sorting out what I'm going to do in the next week for her and get cracking with that. Oh, I know what I forgot. I forgot when I was going through my stitching, I actually have some stash. I don't buy a huge amount of stash. I have a massive stash. I don't need any more. But I did treat myself to an order with traditional stitches in Canada. I wanted a copy of the Christmas Ornament Edition for this year. I've got most of them. There was a bit of a gap when I had my kids, so I've got a little bit of a gap, so I might need to get the DVD to fill that. Unfortunately this year I have been buying it from Bev at Fobbles, but unfortunately this year it wasn't imported into the UK, so I had to buy it, so I had to go to Traditional Stitches for it instead. And of course, as I was buying this to make the postage worthwhile, I picked up a couple of charts that I was after. One is Heartstring Samplery. I am Cross Stitch Nation, which I've been drooling over ever since it came out. And the other was Just Nan's Christmas ornament for this year, the Christmas Dragon ornament. I just went for the one with the dragonfly charm rather than the pin. I have a large collection of Just Nan charts. I really like them. It's her classic samplers that I like. I'm not a massive fan of what she's been doing in recent years. This is the first design for several years I've actually liked enough to buy. you know, she can do what she likes, but the little mice and things, they're very cute, but they're not really my thing. So quite looking forward to stitching this one. It looks like it'll be a fun stitch. I have bought some threads for Spring Bird and such like as well, but that's most of it. As I say, I have a massive stash. I have 2 huge folders full of Just Nan. I think I have sort of like her first 100 designs or something, all of them. So it's not like it's going to be short of stuff to stitch. So anyway, so that's stash. Now on to reading. It's been a reasonable start to the reading year. I finished another LCJ Oxenham called The Conquest of Christina. Slightly different to some of the other books I've read. It's set in Wales, about the mending of a family feud. So quite enjoyed that one. Not exactly demanding read. The next one I finished was for book club and was Ali Smith's Winter. It's a reasonably readable book. I just didn't particularly gel with the story. I didn't think there really was a story. It just seemed to be a bunch of short story ideas chucked in a pot, and could have done with. She's trying to write them at the moment, these season books, to respond to current events, and I can't help feeling that sometimes they would just be a little bit better if she'd time to think, to percolate, because none of us felt Winter actually went anywhere in particular. It was an interesting discussion though, because on that day in Leeds, though, outside the cafe where we were discussing the book, there was a far right demonstration going on, and which made an interesting backdrop to discussing this book, which deals with the fallout from one of the topics is the fallout from the Brexit referendum. I'm very conscious that there has been a debate going on Instagram for those in the knitting community about inclusion. I haven't really commented on it on Instagram because I don't feel it's my place to say much. I will say I see people, and I absolutely understand why people are feeling they need to speak out. I am also aware there was a video from a yarn dyer, who I'm not going to name, who claimed that the silent majority were didn't agree with the people of colour who were speaking out. I'm very much not in that camp. I used to work in international development, and my view was very much that, however well-meaning a white Westerner I was, the people in those countries knew what they wanted, and they didn't need me to come over and tell them what they wanted. It was for them to tell me, and I will just say that I am listening. Anyway, the last book I read, onto much pleasanter subjects, is a review of the cycling year in 2017 from the guys at the Cycling Podcast. I love the Cycling Podcast, as I mentioned in my last video. Cycling is another, I've gotten into cycling, it's something I really enjoy. I love the headspace it gives me, and I very much enjoy listening to the Cycling Podcast, and I loved reading their book. A bit late in reading it because we lent it to someone and we just didn't get it back to Christmas. But it was good to revisit 2017 in cycling terms. So if you are vaguely interested in cycling, I highly recommend the Cycling Podcast. And I think that's me done. Speaking of cycling, I think we have to take our daughter to go and look for a new bike because she's grown out of hers. So I'm going to wrap this up here, and I will speak to you again at the beginning of March. Thank you again for reading, subscribing and commenting and liking, and show notes will be on my blog, which I'll put down below, and I'll see you all again next time. Thank you.